Hao. Hello everybody. Professor Ben Shanlin, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. I would like to talk about three elements which should have an important impact on the Swiss Fintech and the European Fintech ecosystem. One, Fintech license or banking license light. Two, open banking or open wealth. And three, the Swiss Greentech initiative. Now, within Europe, the usual case is that there is a e-money license where fintech startups can apply in order to conduct payment transactions. As such, Switzerland has chosen a little bit of a different way. Switzerland is providing to fintech startups a banking license. So it's a real banking license. One, as a startup, can accept client deposit and can provide banking services. Of course, these services are limited, but on the other hand, then the compliance requirements are much lower, and therefore the costs for this license to implement it and to maintain it is lower. Now, this license was implemented in 2019, but now we gained some experience and we already have now 4 fintech startups in Switzerland who received this license after around 1 year. And why is that important? Well, in the past we had good collaborations in between fintech startups and banks, but not so much disruption. Of course, that's kind of clear, because if you as a fintech startup have to work with a bank and have to collaborate with the bank, you're depending somehow that you're supported by the bank and that what you provide is also a need for the bank. So often real disruption, real crazy things is not typically something which is needed from a bank. Now, with this new license, the fintech startups in Switzerland have really the possibility to build disruption, to become a real competitor for the banks. And also that could attract fintech startups from outside Switzerland to come to Switzerland and therefore help to grow the fintech ecosystem in Switzerland significantly. The second point is the open banking or the open wealth initiative. The open banking was kicked off in Europe by the so-called PSD2. That was basically a regulation which required the banks within Europe to open up for fintech startups for payment transactions. Now, Switzerland has chosen a different way. Switzerland did not want to regulate it, but Swiss banks want to push it by themselves and want to build a standard. So first interesting cases we already have due to this regulation and opening of the payment services, especially in the areas of personal finance, but that is limited to payment only. So it was kicked off there. That gave pressure to Switzerland, and now Switzerland is really heading towards open banking and specifically to open wealth. And I think that is very interesting, because Switzerland has 1/3 of the offshore funds here in Switzerland, of the whole world, and we have more than 200 years experience in dealing with wealth management clients. So that could be really a dynamic development we have here. And now we have also the big players, such as the Swiss Stock Exchange, who now build a platform where all the players from the market, banks and fintech startups, can connect. So that is very important, because if you finally have all these data available and one, especially fintech startups, can connect with all this different data, then we really going finally towards a real embedded finance, embedded wealth management, where really the products and the offers and the services are following the client journey. And finally, that we do what already is happening in China with a number of banking services with Tencent and Financial, where really services for the whole client journey are applied around that journey. And the third point, and not at all the least, is the Greentech initiative from the Swiss government. That is very interesting because typically Swiss government is not usually acting in that strong way. In this case, Swiss government drove that initiative, united all important players, so players from the government, the banks, universities, and of course the fintech sector and the fintech startups, in order to build a concrete action plan in the area of Greentech. And because that initiative, this really good chance that Switzerland will move on in that area quickly and strongly, and hopefully become one of the key player or the number one player in the area of green tech and sustainable investment. So here Switzerland can combine the technology we have here with the experience in the area of wealth management, with the new area of ESG or sustainability. And not to forget, Switzerland, after the banking secrecy almost doesn't exist anymore, we need to have a new business model, and therefore all the parties have a strong interest in this green tech initiative, and therefore we should hear and see more from that initiative in the near future, and hopefully a big success. So these were my 3 points, which I believe will influence the Swiss and the European fintech ecosystem. I hope I could give you some insight, and I do hope to see you at another event in person. Thank you very much. 再见。